Money. Nice to have now, even nicer to have in retirement. But for half the population, that's not a sure thing. In Australia, women typically end up with around a quarter less in their retirement fund than men, and that can contribute to everything from homelessness to living on the pension, which isn't exactly the retirement most of us dream of. Tap the Gap is on a mission to do something about it, and founder Lucy Keogh is here to tell us how. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you. Hello. Thanks so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on this podcast.
Oh, fantastic. So, look, a quarter less super, that is a significant statistic. And my understanding is it can actually be a lot worse for some demographics. Do you want to tell me about the problem?
Yeah. Sure. How long have we got? It is a big problem, but I guess today we want to talk about the problem. We want to frame the problem, but really talk about the solution because that's what we're about, right? So essentially the data tells us that Australian women are 8 times more likely to be homeless over the age of 55. Now that's a lot, right? That's not twice as much or 3 times that's 8 times. So essentially women who are working in our economy, generally taking up most of their unpaid care and contributing to over 60% of the GDP in the country by caring for people, bringing up children, caring for the elderly and not getting paid for it, are finding themselves later in life with not enough money in their superannuation, and then they're ending up on the streets. Now, this is not the outcome that we want, right, for half of our society, and it's just not fair. It's not a fair outcome. And the reason for that, we can talk about it and, people will go, oh, look, there's nothing we can do about it. The simple reason is that our financial systems, our structures weren't built to reflect the way that women work and live. They reflect a single earning male in continuous employment. So this is the problem. The problem is not so much paychecks or yes, women earn less, yes, women don't get promoted. There's all of that in it. But the fundamental problem that we're dealing with is the infrastructure, that we don't have a system that reflects people who work part-time, people who work in lower paying industries, women that take time off for health reasons. There's menopause. Women are most likely to care for an elderly parent if they need that. So there's all of these times in a woman's life that they will come out of the workforce, and our core system that helps people save for retirement doesn't reflect that.
The system's literally built for you to have a full-time income, for you to get retirement income. And
that's exactly right, because it's a percentage of your earning, right?
Percentage of your earning. And even if you're doing like casual work or what's considered, not even considered work often for some people, looking after the kids, which is actually exceedingly valuable work, like bringing up the next generation. If there's no money directly attached to that, there's no superannuation being built up either.
Correct. That's true. And to understand the problem a little more deeply, the reason that women are ending up homeless is because often at that time women are separating from their partners for various reasons. A lot of them don't know that superannuation is a shared asset under family law and are walking out of these relationships without the right to
leaving it behind,
leaving it on the table. And, you can imagine that is a really stressful time for a lot of women and their partners, of course. But often in those times when we don't have the right information and the right guidance around us, we do make decisions that can have a huge effect for us later down the track. And the key thing to remember, especially for that audience, is the data tells us that in 90% of domestic violence cases, there's been a form of financial abuse. So we see from a behavioural point of view, women who don't have agency over their finances are stuck in these really bad situations. And I've heard stories from super funds telling me about women who've lost all of their super because of a coercive relationship. So what we need to do is look at ways for that system to serve women better. Yeah,
it's a version of control, really, another version of control, isn't it?
It is. And look, and I think when we talk about it from an infrastructure point of view, look, we have to look at what's changed. Superannuation was brought in the 90s, right? And work looked very different back then. The majority of households were male and female together. man at work in a consistent job, woman mostly at home. Now, I'm a big fan. I remember growing up loving Hawke and Keating and thinking they were amazing politicians. And it's not to that detriment, but the world of work looks very different today than it did, almost 30 years ago, and our systems haven't kept up. Women are a huge proportion of this audience that we're talking about, but we're also considering the self-employed and that gig economy, which is growing by the day. Now, these are people that aren't forced to pay their own superannuation as well. So again, we've got these huge gaps being created, and we need to change this infrastructure and these systems so that we don't have all of these people getting to retirement and really freaking out. They don't have the right advice around them. They're scared and they're ending up in really dire situations. Yeah.
Yeah, and that combines horribly with rents have gone up. People can't afford houses, so you end up at the other end. And let's say you do end up, say, at 55 divorcing, or at 65, and you've done gig economy your whole life.
Yeah.
In the next, say, 25 years or whatever that you live, the rents are going to triple and quadruple in that time.
Exactly. And so I think, it is it's a big issue for Australia as an economy, and a growing one, right? Mm. And it's not just about personal finance. It is about the whole economy and actually how we're going to support these people. Because ultimately, if people are more independent with their wealth, that takes a huge strain off the Australian economy. And a lot of the research that we're looking at is about, the whole economy is going to benefit from women's participation in it, right? So there's this piece where women are, I'm not going to go back to work after having kids. Maybe it's not actually financially viable for me. Daycare costs a lot. There's all of this sort of myriad of issues surrounding it. But I say to women, I'm like, you know what? The fact that you're earning super when you go back to work, maybe you're not coming out at the end of the day with huge amounts moving forward, but that money is investing for you. And that's your nest egg that's growing. But we're not taught to think like that. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to take you back to your childhood.
Yes.
Because you've explained this problem very much with the now, but you recognised this way back with your own mum. Is this true?
Yeah. I can tell you a story about that, actually. I grew up in, a kind of standard suburb in Sydney. Thought I had a great upbringing. Definitely spent my time climbing trees and, playing games out the front until dusk, which is, a wonderful childhood. My mum was a primary school teacher. We had 4 kids in our family. And, again, she taught me those great values of education. That's really important to educate everyone at all levels. Really brought up in a creative environment to, think about different things and critically analyze things, I guess, from a young age. But where our story took us was that, my dad suffered some real mental health challenges, and that put a huge strain on our family, and they ended up separating. And she retired after teaching primary school kids for 48 years with no super of her own. And she had brought up the 4 kids and moved us out of another house. My sister ended up working for us, stopping uni, and worked for us full time to support us while mum was paying a mortgage and rent in another house. And so I know what that financial instability feels like, and it doesn't feel great. And I've had to, I think about that, and I think there should be better outcomes for women. Mum is fine and she's great now. And, we're a really close family because we've come out the other side of that. But I think if I look about the contribution that she's made to society, and why should she end up with that feeling, when she's just put so much in. So, I was working my day job in advertising, which, feels like a very mediocre job compared to teaching primary school kids. But and I was working on a super fund, and I discovered this statistic about 28% less that women are going to retire with. And I kind of couldn't believe it. Like, it felt like such a huge number. And no one really was talking about it at the time. This is about 5 years ago. The people within the industry were, but no one out there in the world was talking about it. And the more I started to talk to people about it, the more they kind of went, oh, yeah, if I think about it and do the math, I earn less. generally. Maybe I'm overlooked for a promotion. I take time off to have kids. And they're like, oh, actually, that kind of sucks. And, when I talk to people about it, particularly women, it made them angry, and rightly so. So, that's where I looked into it and went, we need a really lateral solution to change this. We can't just say, oh, we've got to educate women, because women are like, it's not that we're not educated. Like, that's kind of like, okay, don't talk to me like I'm an idiot. There's a lot of really smart women out there who haven't been taught the basics of superannuation, and they're really busy, right? They're trying to manage households. They're trying to be a friend, be a mum, be a bloody hot girl walking down the street, on the beach, Yeah, all of that. So there's a lot of pressure on women. And that's where, I decided to use my creativity and randomly, jump into the world of tech and try and change this for the better.
So interesting. So you've seen it, you've actually grown up with it without realizing it, probably, or without being able to galvanize it in your mind. Yeah. You've seen a stat and gone, oh my God, that was my upbringing. And then you've realized it's actually you. Yeah. Which you probably hadn't. And then, of course, as you say, you start looking around, you go, it's everyone.
It's everyone, right? Yeah. And it's so many people. So the more people I spoke to, and the key question is, when was the last time you checked your super? And it was kind of this blank face.
Who's your super with?
Who's your super with? Correct, exactly. And so then you say to someone, well, would you not check your bank account for 30 years?
It's true. It's us humans. We're all about the now, aren't we?
We're all about the now. And so it's this behavioural lens that Tap the Gap is bringing to the problem, which is when you actually talk to a woman, and this was one of those moments when I was early working on the idea, and I met a young woman at a startup event, and I was kind of telling her what I was working on. And she said, oh, super, I really need to think about that. But I don't feel really confident, and, I'm under 30. And I'm like, oh, great, you've got time, I'm thinking, talking to her. And so, we connected on LinkedIn, and I said, oh, look, there's probably 3 things you should do, under 30 that could really help. I'm not a financial advisor, but this is some things you could talk about. So I messaged them on literally a couple of characters here and there. Mm-hmm. I saw her a month later, just randomly at a startup hub, and she came over and she said to me, you know what? Thank you so much for sending me that information, because it gave me the confidence to call up my super fund. I changed my investment choice, and I spoke to my dad about my super. And that kind of gave me shivers at the time. And I thought, I've literally just had one conversation with you. I've talked to you about super. I'm not projecting, I'm not selling, I'm not doing anything. I just had a conversation with you, and you've grown your confidence.
In probably half an hour.
Yeah, in that time, right? And so I think that's where, when we talk about change, and you'll know this, really well in the world of sustainability, that behaviour change, how we change what we do, you have to have confidence in what you're doing in order to do it. And, I know that kind of sounds probably straight up, but people, you can see a lot of the super funds, and where they're falling down is that they're saying, oh, let's just educate everyone about super. And if we tell them more, they'll understand that it's important, and then they'll put their money in and they'll take better care. And that just doesn't work from a psychology point of view, because super's not a tangible thing that people are thinking about today. They're worried about paying the bills. They're trying to deal with all the problems in front of them. But when you come in and you tell them a story about inequality and what's going to happen later in life, and that here is an opportunity for you to change that story for yourself because of all these things, that's when they start paying attention. And that's really exciting.
It's actually a classic marketing funnel.
It is a marketing funnel.
Awareness.
You're right.
I need to be aware I have this problem. Consideration. Right. I need to understand the problem and dig deep. Now that I get my problem, I need someone to solve it. So what's conversion? Who will I go with? Interesting, isn't it? So they're all starting with education, but nobody's even aware they have a problem.
Yeah. That's exactly it. So you're just walking past that, from a woman's point of view, they don't really know the stats,
No, and they're probably not thinking, as you say, I'm thinking about, I've got to get home, do this, I've got all these meetings, I've got this due. They're not thinking about how rich am I going to be in 20 years, 30 years.
No, and there's a lot of hope there's some hope vested there. And then there's also a huge sweeping, mass of women who are like, it's not really my thing. Like my partner, my husband.
Yeah, my husband looks after that. Or,
he looks after that.
Good at money. Those sorts of things, yeah.
I'm not good at money is just get rid of that. I say, because the issue is I'm not good at money. At some stage in your life, statistically, you may separate from your partner and you want to be good at money then.
Well, and also, yes, I agree with that, but also to move on to tap the gap.
Yeah.
There's a piece, your product is pretty simple in how it works. There's an element of you don't actually have to be good at money. You just got to start doing a daily, everyday thing and the money will be good at you. It'll work out for you.
It'll work out for you.
How does it work? Tell me, what is it? How's it work?
So essentially what Tap the Gap does is make this long-term wealth building automatic. Mm-hmm. So we go to a space where women are already engaged. Again, we're not telling them to care about super. We're going into a space where they do hold economic power, and that's shopping. Mm-hmm. So women make 80% of purchase decisions globally. So really what we do is connect with your everyday banking tech. So there's 3 parts to the product. The first is Roundup technology, and that uses open banking, which is a government regulated platform, which essentially gives us consent to read your data in your bank statement, and we calculate what to round up to. So the easiest way to explain roundups is I go and buy a coffee. It costs me $4.60 or maybe $7.40 now in the city if you're having special milk. So say it costs you, let's go dream world, it costs $4.50, and then we round up 50 cents to the nearest dollar. Mm-hmm. So we're taking that, we're measuring each of those roundups on every transaction. 3 times a week we sweep it, we direct debit it from your account, and it goes into your little digital wallet that goes into your super once a month. So the easiest way to explain roundups, I'll do it in the short version, is roundups basically rounds up every transaction you make on your everyday card. Like a coffee for $4.50, we round up 50 cents and we sweep that money, the groceries, whatever. It could be your hair products, your hair's looking good today, and it's all the product. So it can be everything from going out to dinner to, shopping online, and you can choose whether you round up to $1, $2 or $3, and all of that gets swept automatically into your super.
So that's interesting because generally superannuation, as we said at the start, is attached to your income. But what you've done is said not everyone has an income, but everybody has to spend money. So we'll attach to the spending instead. We're going to move where the savings comes from.
Yeah, correct. So that could be, you might be on maternity leave, but you can still be part of Tap the Gap. So that's the first way that it works, which is round up, and that's your own money. So to be clear, it's your own money. 10 cents here, 20 cents there, 60 cents, it all kind of adds up. And at the moment, our users are rounding up about $40 a month. Some months it's a little bit less. So it's kind of $10 a week, a little bit less, but that can have an astronomical effect on your super. It magic of compound interest, which is our new best friend. So, that $30, $40 a week can grow to, 50 or 60 grand in your super at 7%, over 30 years, which is not nothing, right? It's not nothing. And right now the data is telling us that women are retiring on average with 50 grand less than men.
There it is right there.
Yeah, there it is right there. You can close that gap. So this product can literally close that gap for you. So that's the first way it works. The second way that it works is what we call brand bonus. So this is basically a gift from the retailers that are on our platform. When you shop with them, I might go and buy this shirt, say from the Iconic, I pay $100 for it, and they are offering a 5% brand bonus. So I pay the full $100 and the $5 gets swept into my super. Thank you, Iconic. Thank you for coming. And what the retailers are loving about this is that it's helping them measure their sustainability outcomes. So they are not only helping acquire a customer, retain a more loyal customer, but they can actually report back to their board, I have helped X amount of women, 100,000 women, 1 million women when we get to that, put X amount into their super, and it's going to grow to this. So they're actually having a real tangible effect on the outcomes for, female Australians, but all Australians. We do have men and women and non-binary individuals using our platform right now.
I was going to say, am I allowed?
You are. And actually the great thing about men and, and partners using Tap the Gap is that our technology lets you put money into a spouse's super. So
Gee, that's interesting.
Yeah. So we use BPay, which is highly secure, but we just use a BPay number, and you have a different one for yourself and your spouse. So, we have a couple of men on the platform at the moment who are contributing to their partner super, which is great, right? Because in a couple situation, what a lot of people don't think about is, we've got a lot of super in one, but not the other. Number one, it's how the woman feels about that is, different. But number two, you've got to take advantage of those tax benefits, right? Yeah, it's not tax effective. Exactly. Money, yeah. And most people don't know that up to $1.9 million, anything you take out of your super is tax-free.
Tax-free, yeah. So,
it's big. Everyone remember this number today, 1.9 million.
That's quite a lot.
It's quite a lot. And let's hope that everyone gets to that point, which sounds like a huge number. But the earlier that you start contributing these small amounts, it could even be $10 a week, as I talked about, that number is going to grow and snowball. And it's this snowball effect that, we're not really taught about in schools, and we're not teaching our kids as much because we don't know. But that's the lesson you want to teach your children, and that, especially for young women growing up, entering the workforce, yes, you want to buy all the things and you want to go out for, never-ending mimosa cocktails and all of that. Do that, but just chip in a tiny bit because when that money is growing in your super, it's different to stocks. It's different to property. You're not having to pay tax on that.
Later.
It's tax-free later.
Yeah. Isn't it ironic that of all the things we teach in schools, we don't teach people how to be financially independent?
We don't. And ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And you can see there was a huge report done by Deloitte and IRS, which it's called The Big Lift. And it really talked about our financial capability. And there are trillions of dollars missing from our economy because we are not financially capable. People don't get it. The data was saying essentially if people lifted their capability, we could add an extra $130,000 to every household's gross wealth.
Yeah, I bet. And then some of that goes to tax, and we're rich as a society. It seems like such a no-brainer. If everybody in a society knows how it all works and then has simple tools like this to actually implement it, everybody's actually better off.
Yeah, that's it.
Better for me, better for we.
That's it. And, I think that information, which you just touched on there, knowing and understanding, that's been one of the real barriers as well. Because have you ever read through a letter from your superannuation fund?
I do make myself, but I wouldn't say it's the thing that I look forward to the most.
Yeah, exactly. And look, there's reasons for that, right? It's a highly regulated, highly compliant industry, and it needs to be because this is people's
There's a lot of money.
There's a lot of money in there. There's billions of dollars in there, and it's really important money. We had the Royal Commission years ago about, investment firms and financial advisors that weren't doing the right things by their clients. So I respect that and know that there has to be rules and regulations in there, and that's why we have our AFSL. We went through the process of getting that last year, and we take that really seriously because we are bringing general advice to people and we are helping move money into their superannuation fund. But the education part of it is really important, and that's why within our app we have micro-learning.
Is this the third part of the product?
This is the third part of the product.
We only got up to
Great segue. So the third part of the product, is micro-learning, and we call it micro-learning because who's got attention span of more than 30 seconds? So it's
30 seconds is a long time.
It's a lot. Okay, well, I'm thinking back to it. Yeah, let's hold that attention. You're right. Most people are about 3 seconds, but you can go in there and they're 1 to 2 minute pieces of content and simple slides that explain the concepts of super in a way that people can understand because people just don't. It's really boring.
It's interesting though. I engage first.
Yep.
I then get rewarded. And now that I'm kind of involved in this, then I start to learn, which is very different to how most things go, which is let me teach you everything first.
Correct.
When you're not interested, not paying attention. So it's a nice flip on how most things work.
Yeah, it's a real flip on the customer experience. And that's where I think the behavioural shift is so exciting, right? Because we're seeing that confidence grows through action. And we've had that validated through a lot of the CEOs in the super funds we're talking to. I'm saying what really shifts the dial for members? And they've come back to me and said action. When a member actually takes action for their super, they've got this deeper engagement. It's not about how many emails we send them or generally how many ads we put on TV. All of that is part of the infrastructure. And I understand that from a brand background. But the action and our action is we're showing you the money that's coming in. So within our app format, you get your roundup total, you get your brand voters total, and we show that a beautiful future projection of what that might look like. And
that's good. So you give them you're selling me the later dream, but in a very now tangible way.
Correct. And through all our user research, that's what our users are saying. I want to feel a sense of progress. So it's not that you have to be great at maths or great at finance, like you said before. You can connect once you've done it once, you can sit back and let that kind of roll through. You don't have to tend to it a lot, if that makes sense. It is simple unless you want to. I mean, our bigger goal as an organisation is to engage and get people to take some of those extra steps for their super, which involves looking at your investment choice or naming a beneficiary or those sort of things. But we're seeing through this early cohort of first users that is what's happening. It's the progress. It's seeing, oh my gosh, I'm doing something. I can stop panicking.
That's a beautiful way. So it's almost gamification. You see it in a lot of apps now. And, I always remember the start of, apps and internet. Everyone's like, and it does this and this and this. And people put out this does everything. And what they realize slowly is, no, you're better at putting out something that gives people one simple thing to do. And then one next simple thing to do, and then one next. And then that's the classic, you're, 62% of the way there to the perfect profile, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Now do this today, now do this. So you lead them on a nice slow path.
That's right. And
if they never get past step one, kind of doesn't matter.
It kind of doesn't matter. And you're right. Like there's only so much cognitive load that a user can take on board, especially in an app experience. And look, I'll admit that getting people to connect to roundups, it has been a big thing because a lot of people aren't familiar with open banking technology. I wasn't when I started this.
Do I need to even know that though? As a user, I just need to know that if I sign up there, when I tap there, that money goes there.
Yes, that's true. But in order to onboard, you have to understand what you're doing. And we are asking you to connect and give consent to us.
Taking some money every time you spend some.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's the point, and that's what we worked really hard on when we were building the app, to help users get past that point and to build trust with users in that situation. Because anytime you're connecting, everyone's so scared of fraud and data and scams that we need to be open with them and talk to them about it. And actually, our values are about educating. And I want our users to understand that they're using the latest and greatest banking technology to have agency over their finances. They don't need to understand it all, but they need to know what they're using. Trust it. Yeah, they need to trust it.
So what we through that, you actually only launched in December 2025, which is
true. Yes,
recent.
Yeah, we're in month 4.
So I guess I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Number one, how's it going? But also just expanding on what we just talked about. What are you finding is working to get people in and to get using it? Because it's one thing to see a problem, create an idea. Getting people to use it is really kind of the next important big step.
Who would have thought, right? And look, my journey to being a startup founder is, I didn't know anything about tech 2 years ago. I mean, apart from how to use my phone and the TV remote. And obviously came from a creative world where I'd written websites and, we produced some products, but I didn't know how to build it myself. So I studied no code. I built a really dodgy version of the app. And through that, and I say dodgy now because I thought it was beautiful, but now I can tell that it was really dodgy.
You're not embarrassed by your first version?
Exactly. I'm really embarrassed.
Yeah.
I did a post earlier at the start of this year, kind of putting them side by side so I could show that, the progress. But what I'm going to say, now I've lost my train of thought. I was going to say, what were we talking about?
You were saying that you didn't know, you'd never made an app.
Yep. And then
you figured it out, you build an app, and then the question is, how do you, how's it going?
How's it going? Exactly.
And also, how are you getting your early adopters?
That's where I was getting to.
Yeah.
So essentially it's a long journey. We launched just in December last year, and that was after the whole year of building and getting, took a year.
Building, testing.
Testing, getting, like, the biggest piece was our AFSL license, which took way longer than we thought. So our tech was ready to go, but we couldn't go to market.
Do you test with users along the way and go, try this? Does it work? Does it work?
All the way. Yep. All the way. And even prior to doing that, I was talking to heads of P&C at employers because we wanted to validate an employer.
P&C, people and culture.
People and culture. Yeah.
For the listeners
for the listeners at home. So really we saw when we came up with this idea, to start with, women loved it, right? They were like, oh my gosh, this feels amazing. If I could just do that and do it and not really think about it, thank you, I'm signing up today. But not all of them wanted to pay for it. So what we went and talked to heads of people and culture for about 6 months to say, where are you at in terms of financial literacy for your people? And what we found was it was the next frontier of wellness. So, great companies, employers of choice were offering great physical benefits, great mental health benefits, but they recognise, like you've said, our financial literacy as a nation is going backwards. People are stressed about money. And when people are stressed about money, they're stressed about everything. So
one reason relationships break up.
Correct. So they're recognising that that's something they could combine into their EAP or into their financial wellbeing benefit program. And so we really talked to them very deeply and started co-building that product with them. One of our early employers really was the first person to say to me, you can't just give it to women. We have to be able to offer it to everyone. And I loved hearing that feedback and said, actually, you're right. You can't block men and non-binary individuals out of this. They have to be part of the solution. And that's where we worked and we built the technical capability to put money in a spouse's super, or if a man wants to use it for himself, why not? So be it. But really we're coming in through that avenue of actually educating women and men about this problem so they can solve it together. And I've found it really interesting, young men in some of the employers that we've gone into, they love the module of education we do on super and separation. They're like, oh, what do you mean? Like, I've got to share my super, And so it's not about my super, it's our super. And making them aware of that has just been phenomenal because they're rethinking about their relationship with their partner. And do you know what I mean? So
I imagine that would be for some people an impetus to say, oh, look, you've got no super. What about this? So you start building some too. Now together we have more super.
Correct. And going back to that point, if you're having equal financial discussions in a relationship, then that makes for a stronger relationship. We're seeing data now that a lot of women are putting into their prenups that they want their partner to split super through childbearing years. I'm like, full power to you, sister. That women are wising up, younger women are wising up to this. So, to get back to what you talked about, what's working is that where our go-to-market is really working through those employers, because we talked about trust, right? And ASIC data shows us that employers are a real trusted source of financial education for Australians. They really are the number one, influence, not the TikToker and, all those people out there. So the employers are delivering this education, and I'm finding with those we're getting a higher uptake of users to complete the onboarding.
So basically they're doing your go-to-market for you. They're going, cool, we would like all our employees to be financially literate and have a good retirement at one point when they leave. So we're going to educate them on, hey, did you know there's a problem? And then we're going to offer them this app as part of that, I guess, free use of this app, which otherwise if I just came in via the website, there's a I have to pay something. That's very interesting. So they're seeing it as a good health and wellbeing. It's kind of financial wellbeing add-on benefit for their employees.
Yeah, and then for them, from a sustainability reporting point of view, it's important.
Yeah, they can say they look after people.
Correct. So it's got that real. So there's sort of, I guess, the business, to explain it, has this kind of flywheel effect where we've got the users who are the women and men and non-binary individuals who want to grow their wealth. We've got employers who are helping deliver that to them. We've got the super funds who stand to gain, who want more money in their funds and also want to engage audiences earlier. Yeah. That's what we're finding. There's been huge amounts running through the press lately talking about the mass exodus of traditional funds because funds are really struggling to deliver advice at scale. And so that's part of our plan, is to really not so much personalise the advice, because we are general advice under our AFSL, but make sure that we're sequentially delivering that advice at a meaningful time to those users.
Information in a simpler, more palatable way.
Right? Where someone's...
Here's a TV ad and a brochure.
Yeah, exactly. So we know we've got those employers, and then we've got the retailers who, again, as we've said, that's that fourth party. They really want to be connecting with, their big audience, which is women who are shopping there all the time, and talk about something meaningful with them, because loyalty programs are really all same at the moment.
Yeah. And they get a little bit opaque. I'm not sure. How much is a point worth?
Correct.
And
the pointless
you can change
points.
at any time what my points are worth.
Well, that's it. I mean, the RBA has just delivered news that it is cutting those exchange fees in October of this year. And the implication for that is that the fees that they normally take for that credit card is actually what's funding the value of those points. So that infrastructure is about to take a real hit.
So they're going, okay, if I want loyalty, okay, if you're trying to build your super via when you spend, if you spend with us, we give you that 5% loading on your purchase fundamentally.
Correct. So really that,
It's like a cashback really. It's just we stick it in your super instead of give it to you.
Correct. And so it is, we think about it, it's not just $5, it's what $5 is going to be worth down the track. Value. And that's different. But again, the language in the way that we talk about that is different. And we've really heard from the retailers, they don't like the words cashback. It feels cheap. It's devaluing.
No, this is value add, really.
So this is, this is it. So this is the marketing brain coming in and going, how can we make that? But, everything about the experience that we've designed at Tap the Gap is to suit all of those parties, to help the women understand things, to make sure we're reflecting value for the retailer, to support the employer in what they want to achieve, and making sure the super fund has that engagement.
Did you plan all this out on paper at the start, or did you start with, I've got an idea about the roundup, and then slowly when you spoke to people, you went, here's an opportunity, here's a challenge, and you figured it all out as you went?
Yeah, good question. So it did kind of change slightly, because I started with the brand bonus part of it, which was the retailer part.
Right, so you built
only.
That in. Yep.
Well, that's in my head before we actually
the actual roundup wasn't there?
No, the roundup wasn't there.
Interesting. So it started as actually a loyalty program.
But the reason, it started as loyalty. Yeah. And the reason that the loyalty then we switched is because through user research and testing, we know that in building these experiences, you want to see that progress and you want to see it quickly. Yep. And when we did all the calculations, cashback and
wasn't going
to add up to as much, right? You had to really be pushing a lot of that through to do it. And actually the technology at the time didn't really support that. So we waited a bit longer, and we're now using a slightly different tech, which is called card linked rewards, where it does it all in the background. You don't need coupons, you don't need codes.
As soon as there's coupons and codes,
you're just tapping out, right?
Yeah.
So now we've got that, but we started with the roundup, and actually we just sort of surveyed our recent users, and we wanted to know, did they come for roundup? Did they come for brand bonus? Did they come for learning? A lot more than I thought came for the roundup, because they can see.
Seems like the simplest, most obvious to me.
It's the simplest, most obvious. But again, I can think and feel things. I need the data to tell me what's really happening. So that's the one where you can see that sense of progress straight away. And that feels really good for a user, right? And think about an app. People don't hold on to apps. They never come back to them. You've got to build that stickiness in. And the brand bonus is kind of that sugar on top. One of the other things we wanted to be really conscious of was not encouraging women to shop more.
I was going to say, did you ever have a discomfort moment that literally if you spend it, you're not saving it, and actually, you spend $50.50, that's 50 cents in your future. It could have been 50 in your bank account.
That's exactly right. And I did get some of those questions from early investors and saying, this kind of's got a weird vibe to it. And I said, well, it's about the way you talk about that. And the reason that we built the features in that order was so that we're like, okay, this is your money, and the retailer thing is on the back of that, right? It's a nice to have. And again, the roundup is sustainable in the way that we're not encouraging you to shop more. If you're someone who makes 200 transactions in a week, you're going to round up based on that. If you're someone who, earns less and maybe spends less, you're going to round up based on that. So it's about rewarding you for the spend that you're already doing.
Don't
spend more. So we're very different to a traditional rewards program.
The
more you spend, the more you save.
And it's the most ironic statement.
It's ironic.
In the world,
and so I think that's it. So when we say you're going to build wealth while you shop, it is a different way to build wealth. And we've been really conscious of that through our narrative and the fact that we are working through employers, through retailer funds. We're not going through a traditional direct to consumer because that's a huge amount of advertising dollars. That's not the most sustainable way to build this product as well. We're thinking about that. Media has carbon credits. Like you need carbon credits to run back through your media. You'll know that really well. So we've considered sustainability in the way that we're building and going to market and trying to deliver in, the most sustainable way possible.
I actually had a thought once, when you're sitting there and you're looking at something on your phone and going, I want to buy it, I know I shouldn't. I want to buy it, I know I shouldn't. I've actually thought, what I need to do? Let's say it's $50. I'm going to not buy that. I'm going to put $50 in my super. So actually give myself a diversion from the impulse purchase.
I love that.
Now because just not spending it doesn't come up with a great feel. The idea that, all right, I now did spend that money on something better, something that I have for the future. That's just a little idea I had once for myself to rein in my own bad behavior. Occasional, I'm not a great shopper at my own behavior. Just a thought.
So that is definitely a feature. Well, an impulse stopper, and I love that. That might be something we'll put in our back pocket. So look at it. But I do think there are, there's little features like that topping up or wanting to put something in at the end of a piece. I had a user who we did user research with, and she had shared that she made a goal for herself that every time she shopped and bought something, she put the same amount into her savings fund.
Great point, yeah.
And it actually changed her behaviour in that moment because it made her think really hard, do I really need this?
Yeah, and it's costing twice the price.
And it's costing twice the price. I mean, then she was funny and laughed about it afterwards, saying, it really helped me save up, for my sauna. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's great.
Now you got to put the whole sauna's worth in.
Yeah, that's true. I think we cut the pattern by then. So look, again, that talks about behaviour, right? It's different from going, it's just a feature in a fintech app. So what we want to do, and obviously we're in market for 4 months and, this is where we're just starting, but there's a huge amount that we can do in terms of understanding that behaviour that, consumers are going through as they're shopping, making purchase decisions and then being able to communicate with them in a meaningful way.
Such a fascinating space because we all know impulse shopping, and now we got, one click. It used to be I had to go to the bank and get money out. Then I could go to an ATM.
Yes.
Then I could just tap it. Now I can just sit in my phone and double click the side of it. It just gets easier and easier and easier to spend money. Yes. And the psychology around this is just fascinating. The fact that you're trying to essentially insert the concept of super and why don't you think about your future and use these psychologies, I just think is awesome. Yeah. Do you find it works? Have you found with your uptake that there's a certain demographic that just goes for it way more than others, or is it just scattered?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So traditionally, and I know from working in the super industry, like working on a super client, you'll get, women late 30s to 40s who are more engaged in their super.
Woken up to the problem.
They've woken up to the problem. They might have a few kids, or they've moved, they're in a more serious job. They're trying to think about their finances a bit more, what stage they're at. So there's real milestones in life that, trigger conversations about super. When I turned 40, when I turned 50, these sorts of things. Taking maternity leave, as you said. Taking maternity leave, exactly. But what's been really encouraging in some of these early employers is that we're seeing women who are 19, 21, 24, 26, signing up and going, this is awesome. I had a young girl come and say, thank you so much for talking to me about this. I'm going to tell all my cousins. And I'm like, I love that. I've got a lot of cousins as well. But, and another girl who said, look, I just had no idea that this is how it worked. And I need to go and talk to, my family about this. So it's this realization, and I'm very well aware that, so that's what's exciting. So the traditional path of people engaging their super is later. Right.
Yeah, and you're talking 10 to 20 years later.
Yeah.
It's 10 to 20 years of compound interest. Yeah.
I love that you say that. I love this. It's great.
Let's say it again.
Yeah, say it again. Compound interest.
So
it's just so sexy.
It was someone once called it one of the most powerful force in the universe, didn't they?
Pretty much, right? And, I think we need that on a T-shirt. And so note that, Abby. We're going to put that on a T-shirt. But, yeah, so what's exciting is I think because we're coming in that other avenue, which is about inequality, it is about independence for women, and they can see that, and this is a pathway for them. So that's what really excites me, because if we can change that general age that someone connects with their super, and when I'm saying that, super is that avenue, but really if you understand super, you understand wealth.
You'll understand money.
And you understand investing. Right. So, so if you through Tap the Gap, by educating women and getting them to engage with super, we're teaching them how to invest.
Yeah,
really.
There's a step back there. It's actually, to what you say, if you wait till people are 30 or 40, that's when you're educating them on super, when they've gotten interested. When you're talking to 19-year-olds, people hitting their first job, it's a big change point for them. And you're actually talking about equality and fairness and whether they are going to have the same career path and the same opportunities. You're talking about a very different thing. Independence, fairness, equality, those things. Those are far more powerful emotive things to start with. Yes. And then go, well, one of the number one places that you're going to lose your independence and lose your equality is around money. So I know it's boring at this point, but let's talk about one simple thing you sign right now that will change that for the rest of you, give you that independence and fairness for the rest of your life. That is a very powerful move to shift people back 10 to 20 years and enter in on an emotive issue rather than, well, let me talk to you about money.
Exactly. And that's what is... that's just what is wildly exciting. That's what gets me through the long hours that is running a startup, which is way harder than I thought it would be.
Tell me about that.
Oh,
that's actually my next question. You ready?
Okay.
What is it? It's a bit of a... there's a couple of them, but I'll go with the one that goes, what's the most unglamorous thing about running a startup? It's a bit of a bummer question, but let's...
I think there's a lot of gloss out there on Instagram, and, I'm running a startup and it's all just fabulous. Which it is, in the sense that it brings me great joy every day and I love the energy of it. The most unglamorous thing about a startup is doing all of the jobs. So you're doing, the finances and you've got people to help you with things. But at the end of the day, you're doing numbers, you're worried about security, you're looking at marketing, sales funnels, you're learning all of these new tools that you're having to do. And probably the hardest thing is knowing that it ends with you. Like if you don't have someone, especially in the early stage where I'm at, if you don't have someone on the payroll to be doing that job, you just got to learn it.
You're doing it.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
There's greatness in that. And I love learning. Like I've always been a learner and I do love that about it. But there's some weeks where I'm like, wow, I would love to be doing something that I actually don't have to learn right now.
Yeah.
Especially when you come from a career at the time when I moved out of my career where I was sort of at the top of my career and was really confident, going to this learning curve where I had to learn a lot really quickly. And I'd probably say there's 20% of my job right now, which is my old skill set.
So 80% of your skill set is now new.
Yeah. Yeah.
You better want to do it, hey?
Yeah, that's right.
That must take a lot of time too.
It does. So that unglamorous side is probably the hours. Like I do work a huge amount of hours.
I do know you emailed me at 8 a.m. on a Sunday last week.
Loser alert.
And an equal loser, I actually received it at about 8:05.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm in that state at the moment where I go, when I think about it, if I send it, I do schedule send some of the time, but sometimes you can get people in those windows. And I like to try and get back to everyone and do the things. So it's a lot, but I love the flexibility of...
I was going to say, what's the glamorous bit?
Come on,
there's got to be a glamorous bit.
Look, the glamorous bit is For me, it's just meeting people, like I just am getting to meet people from all walks of life, whether that's users, whether that's potential investors I'm talking to, retail partners, and just really interesting women in the space of equality for women. I've had so many people reach out to me offering to help. What can I do to help and support you? Who can I introduce you to? And that energy is phenomenal. And I love that. I love that sense of community because that's what women are good at, right? Like that is something that separates female founders, I think, from the rest of the pack. And we have to lean into that. And, our strength is building community and connecting with people emotionally. So, yeah, for me, that's the most glamorous part. I feel like going to an event or just going to have a coffee with someone new is, yeah, I'm really grateful for that because that brings richness to my world.
I like it. I mean, having worked in sustainability, purpose, impact, call it what on earth you will for over 20 years now, I've found that too. Number one, it's a very female space. I must agree with you. There's got to be 70 to 80% females in the let's help make the world better sort of industry, if you like. But also I found that, to your point, the galvanizing power of a mission or a cause. Yeah. Like if you're just sitting down with someone to go, how are we going to make some money? That's all right, but it's transactional. When you're sitting around to talk about a cause, the various root causes of that, what are the new methods in, what's worked, what hasn't, it excites people.
Yeah.
It's balm for the soul. And, I think that there's that whole thing, Dan Pink, of, people want mastery, purpose, mastery and autonomy.
Yes.
I want to do something I believe in. I want to be able to get good at it. And I want to be able to given the chance to learn and pioneer it myself. And I think there's so much in that for people that's lost. And to me, I agree, that is the thing that fundamentally gets you back up every day because it is hard, right? Changing the world for the better is hard.
Man, it's hard. Yeah.
It is hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And there are, I would say, there's only been really a handful of days where I've thought, I can't do this. Probably a handful in the last 2 years. So that's not a bad average.
Oh, I've got a way lower.
Okay. Maybe give me a few more years, that might increase. But I've kind of taught myself to think that's not going to serve you and it's not going to serve the people you're trying to help for you to doubt yourself, and to sit in that too long. I think there's days where you can go, this is really hard and challenging and I don't know this thing, but the kind of, I can't do this, I'm going to give up. I have to look behind me and go, well, look what I've done already. And that is the thing that keeps me moving forward, and I've had to do that, maybe in the last week or so going, oh, wow, we're moving at this pace and we're getting more people around us and different types of investment and, I'm doing all the jobs. But when I get an email back from a user who says, oh my gosh, thank you so much, and they've talked to me about the fact that they're really struggling and they're concerned about their super and, like I'm getting kind of part of their life story on an email and they're like, thank you for doing this. That fills me with hope, right? I just need to take that, bottle that and amplify it at scale because, we can bring that humanity to a technical experience. And that's where we can create change.
I have the same experience running this podcast is maybe once a month someone either rings me or sends me an email saying, I really like this, please keep going. And it's one a month keeps me going for the next month. But it's interesting. I spoke to someone who did radio once and they said that their rule of thumb was that for every one person who rings up and chats to you or gives you a response back, there's 100 people listening. And so that's a nice little multiplier for you. For that one person that says, thank you for helping me, there's at least 100 that they're representing. And that's probably, quite frankly, more.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, it does keep me going. And I think just hearing validation from employers who are saying this is really important, from other people out there in the world. I know the reality is you can have a great idea, but bringing it to life is the challenge, right? And the execution is the hardest part of it. And that's always been the same for advertising. You can have a great idea in advertising and creative industry, actually bringing it to fruition is the hard
You're
part.
not really sure if you've got a great idea until you've tried to execute it.
Correct,
let's be honest.
correct. That's true. And will people pay for it and what's going to happen next? But I think, look, all you can do is show up as yourself authentically, own what you know, own what you don't know, and try and get the best people around you. That's one of the things that I think I really value is authentic people who do have their heart in the right place, do share the same values with you. And ultimately, I want this company to be a huge commercial success, because if it is, we can keep going. If it's not a success, then we stop in our mission. So it's absolutely imperative that this is a commercial, venture that is going to make money for my investors, and that is, going to operate in a really, positive capacity. Otherwise, it's not a charity. Like, this is a business. I want it to succeed in the way, and that's what we're shaping it to do, to be a financially a success story.
I don't find that in any way controversial. I believe that I'm in the Mark Kramer school of thought that if you can, I wish the world didn't work like this, but it does. If you can generate income out of doing good, it gives you fuel to do more good. And I really like that. That shortcut is profit fuels purpose, people have said. Having said that, some people are uncomfortable with that. Hang on a second. What if you shouldn't really be making money out of doing good, which I think's the old way. But what is your response when you get those sort of people say things like that?
That's interesting. I can understand why people say you shouldn't be making money out of doing good things. But the reality is that when you are making money, you can continue to do that good. You've just said it yourself. So I think when you get in it for the right reasons and there's upside to that, then great. I think people shouldn't shy away from that. Like, I'm open about wanting to be financially successful. I actually want to make money so I can go and help more female founders run their businesses or, have greater impact with the money I've got and affect decisions in the world. And it all comes back to, like, money does create power. In the world, we can't be naive about that. So I want it to allow women to create that power for themselves in the way that they control their own finances, in the way that they grow wealth. And, if you look at all the data out there, like, it's really hard to run a social enterprise that is making money, in the world out there. It is really challenging. So, part of what we're doing at Tap the Gap is knowing that our mission is never going to change, but like, making money is the part of it that proves that you're really good at what you do. It's
also the fuel.
Yeah.
I think to me there's
I rambled on that one. Yeah.
No, that was beautiful actually. It's just such an important question, because if you're not prepared to make money, you don't have as much fuel as other ventures, which means you cannot be successful as the one that isn't doing good. And that to me leads me naturally down the path. So if I can't make money doing good, does that mean I have to do bad to make money? And that doesn't seem like the world I want to live in.
That's exactly right. I love that framing actually. Like, I'd love a world that worked in that way. And there's so much dirty money out there, right? And there's so much money being made, especially in tech, that, sure, it's making heaps of money, but is it really having an impact? It's not.
Making the world better overall?
Is it making the world better overall?
Just for a couple of billionaires.
Is it making the world better, or is it just making more money for the people who have money already? I'd love to come out of Tap the Gap by saying, here's this company, I've made a huge amount of money in this company, and at the same time, I've helped millions of Australian women make money for themselves. And that's what they've done.
Seems like a pretty good story to me.
Yeah, that will be my story. Hopefully I can come back in several years' time and
I'm looking.
Close the end of that book.
Now, I'm going to give you a few quick fire, because you've got investors to talk to, you've got customers to work with. I can't have you all day as much as I'd love to. What's one thing people are surprised to learn about you?
Prep these questions very well. These little ones. What people be surprised to learn about me? Probably that I used to be really good at maths.
great.
I used to be really good at maths.
So great at maths to advertising creative.
Yeah.
To tech entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did used to be really good at maths. Right now, people would go, okay, are you getting that on the numbers? Probably because I enjoy creativity more than, a spreadsheet. But I think the love of maths is that problem-solving mentality that comes through, and I love solving a problem. So that's where the kind of maths and creativity came together. And I do love structure around things, even though I'm not the world's most organised individual. But the structure, there's parts of it. So, and I've got better at my maths. I mean, my CFO might have another opinion, but
that's what they're there for.
They're there. Exactly. But look, I've had to learn a whole new set of financial skills, right? And, I've worked through with my CFO and understand that business model, because in the end, it stops with me. I've got to understand every aspect of the company, which I do now. And the reason that I learnt no code was to have the confidence not to build the tech myself, but be able to ask the hard questions and make sure that no one was taking advantage of me from a build point of view. And so that confidence, knowing that skill, I learn a skill so that I can be confident to ask the right questions, knowing that I don't necessarily have to execute that skill every day, but the person I hired to do that and the way that has an implication in a business, I understand.
Very good. So it's back to being a CEO. You got to know a little bit about everything.
A little bit about everything.
You can hire people who know a lot more about everything.
Correct. The doers. The worker bees.
Yeah. What is the most powerful skill that you think you bring to the table as an entrepreneur?
I think my most powerful skill as an entrepreneur is the ability to see the human experience. And that's through talking to people, getting to know people and understand what they're going through. And that sounds quite strange when we're talking about tech, but all tech comes from a human.
Sounds like exactly what we need to hear talking about tech, because all I'm hearing about tech now is about the tech, not about and how it's going to make humans' lives worse. So,
yeah, exactly. So I think that I talk a lot, but I am a great listener. And I've always really enjoyed listening to people's stories and taking the pieces out that feel most authentic and real, and that gets my brain going. So I think, and I've heard from other people out there in the ecosystem talking about other tech leaders who wouldn't listen to what was going on in the market or what was really going on with their users. And that's a risk, right? Like, you can't operate like that. So I think
they'd be the ones that fail, aren't they?
Yeah, they do. And I think that's one of the key skills that I've learned in terms of software development, is how to really listen and not be blinded by your own bias, and look at the data and listen to the people that are using it and make decisions based on that.
Very good. Now, if I was to offer you a single-use magic wand, so you only get one wish with it, which of course you would say, there's no way I'm taking a single-use thing. No, but let's say it was recyclable or rechargeable. I've got a rechargeable magic use wand and I let you use it. What would you use it for? What would you change in the world?
Sounds controversial, but I would take away mobile phones.
Wow. I'm almost with you. I'd take away social media. I don't think I'd take away mobile phones. Because I want my maps. I don't want my phone.
You want your map? You know what? That's probably the thing. I think I would take away social media. I think, and look, a lot of people say that, but I've got 2 teenage girls in my house, and I just, I talked about my childhood where, I climbed trees and, we rode bikes and, we're in the park until sundown. And my kids do that to an extent.
Yeah, there's just e-bikes that do 60k an hour.
Yeah, there's no e-bikes in our house, me and my husband. But yeah, I just think the creativity, and this is the challenge for the next frontier of workers, is that with AI, your core skills will be creativity and your ability to critically analyze information and make decisions on that, right? In terms of is this right? Yes, the AI can do it for me, but I have to problem solve. I have to know what to ask it. I have to know how to...
problem I need to solve.
Yeah. So I just feel like our next generation of kids, they're missing that. They don't have this sense of wonderment. You know, they'll go and travel and rock up in a town and they're like, oh, yeah, I've actually already seen like the inside of, you know, the Sistine Chapel because it's online. You know?
The same, is it?
It's not the same, but it's not the same.
You could always watch it on TV.
They could, but I'm saying through that, through social media and through this just access to information, the wonder of the world is missing a little bit. And that's what I believe is that richness, because inherently I think if you're a creative person, you're never going to be lonely and you're never going to be bored. And so you will always be rich, you know?
Interesting. The thing I've noticed with my daughters on that is, like, I mean, I'm just as bad, quite frankly. It's not just kids, it's adults too. You want to see people stuck on their phones, go to the kids' playground and watch the parents sitting on their phones, right?
I know.
So you can't just make it about the kids, it's everyone. But I've noticed literally they crave time. They'll fight you on screen, you know, access. And if you try to set up, you know, they can only have this much. But when you go away and there's no reception, or when that sort of thing, it actually, you watch their nervous systems calm down. You watch them go, that was a really good week. It's almost like, it's like exercise, right?
Yep.
You know you're going to feel good afterwards. You still don't do it. And then afterwards you're like, I'm so glad I did it. But it's
That's exactly right. So yeah, I think with my magic wand, I would take that away, or maybe I just take it away. And I know we've got our bands and everything, but that's not reality. You know, those things aren't working.
Maybe it's only, have you seen Ready Player One, the movie? It's a great movie.
No, I haven't.
It's more about the, you know, everyone lives in a virtual reality world most of their lives because the planet's terrible.
Yeah,
but it's funny when I don't want to ruin it because it's a really good movie, but eventually it ends up in there's forced days off.
Okay,
which
right.
is very unpopular, but everyone recognises that it's better for them.
Okay,
So,
okay, I see that.
anyway.
Well, yeah,
And look, maybe we take it away for a certain amount of time. But I feel like that human communication is missing. You know, that way that kids communicate with each other and themselves and how to make friends
is different.
Maybe it's a bit of both, because I'm also impressed by how they use the tech sometimes. Like my daughter's just like, blah, 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 quick message, blah, blah. So they almost talk like video walkie-talkies. So they're always in context. So they have this beautiful connection. But if it's all that, I agree, you've lost that.
Yeah.
It's just like, how do you, same even social media, you know, like the fact that I can stay connected with people who I will see once every 5 years is really good.
It is really
But
good.
me sitting there doom scrolling is really bad. It's like, how do I get the good and not the bad?
Yeah,
you know?
it is tricky. It is tricky. So yeah, that would probably be one of those things. But I guess, yeah, I'm trying to think about what else you would solve. It's just that I look at society and I think, I don't know, there's just people are craving connection, like people are really struggling out there. And even I had my mum's cousin say, oh, you know, I feel like we're leaving the world in a worse place, you know, for your generation. And I think there's some great advancements that we've made, but yeah, I like the idea of making sure that everyone has the right to that space and that time without that to be able to develop
creativity.
To be able to develop creativity and connection. That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Probably solve a lot of problems through that.
Correct. Creativity and connection. That's another T-shirt. Okay. I'll come back to you on that.
C Factory.
Yeah,
I think that was a band in the 90s. Okay, the world needs more people like you doing more things like this. Somebody who listens in and goes, I want to be like Lucy. Where do they begin? What do they do?
Right. So start and, you know, write down your idea, what you're thinking of, and then just start talking to people.
Winning starts with beginning.
Starts with the beginning.
Get creative and start connecting.
Start connecting. That's exactly right. And I think I think if you've got an idea, the biggest thing about it is find out everything around that topic. So don't tell people about your idea. Go out and talk to them around that topic and what their biggest challenges are, what they've noticed. Tell me about the last time you tried to put money in your super. What happened? Or tell me about your earliest memory of money is where I started my conversations, and it grew from there. So one of the biggest learnings I had reading, someone recommended I read The Mom Test, which is an American book, but it's how to create a great customer interview. And it's called the MOM, M-O-M, but the Mum Test, in terms of, if you went to your mum and said, Mum, I've got this great idea, blah, blah, blah. She go, that's great, Doll.
Yeah, of course you will.
Of course you will, because she's your mum. So this is how to ask those questions where you're not getting a biased opinion from someone that likes you. And you could talk to your friends, but don't tell them what your idea is.
Ask them about their problem.
Ask them about their problem, keep your idea inside, and then you work around it from that.
Good advice. Yeah. Thank you very much. So whether you, thank you for spending time with us. That was
Pleasure.
Wonderful.
Thanks so much for having me, Ben.
If somebody is 19 or 30 or 40 or 55, male, female, non-binary, whoever they are, and they want more super and start to engage, learn about this and get some nice little bonuses from their favourite brands, they go to
tapthegap.com.au. And you can download our web app. We're not in the App Store just yet, but that's coming. So, jump on in, and there's a free trial of Roundups, and you can connect to Brand Bonus for free, and all the education is free as well.
Great. And if I want to follow you on my favourite social media channel so that I learn something useful out of social media instead of just looking at inane cat videos,
correct.
Where do I go?
You can go to find me, look for me, Lucy Keogh on LinkedIn.
Could you spell that for us?
It is LucyKough.
Yep.
Look me up on LinkedIn, or at Instagram, we are tap.thegap. That's our handle. So,
fantastic.
Look us up, and any questions, things you want to say, jump on in, try it. We love to hear from all of our users and potential users. And if you're an employer who is really keen to bring financial literacy to your people, come and chat to us. We've got all of that ready to go. And if you are potentially someone who's looking to invest in an impact-based startup like ourselves, we'd love to hear from you as well. We've got an investment memo that's live at the moment.
Fantastic.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Look forward to hearing about all your future success.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.